President Joe Biden marked the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre on Tuesday by warning of a thruline of systemic racism that exists today, including the threat of white supremacist violence and an assault on voting rights. Biden said that Vice President Kamala Harris will lead efforts to push for voting protections as Republican-led statehouses put in place election restrictions on such things as early and mail-in balloting. As the first president to visit Tulsa, Oklahoma, to commemorate the massacre, which left as many as 300 people dead and the black community of Greenwood devastated, Biden devoted a portion of his speech to explaining why the terrorism of those 2 days in 1921 was purposely left out of the history books. He characterized it as an effort to erase it from our memory. For much too long, the history of what took place here was told in silence, cloaked in darkness, Biden said. But just because history is silent, it doesn't mean that it did not take place. And while darkness can hide much, it erases nothing. He said that some injustices are so heinous, so horrific, so grievous, they can't be buried no matter how hard people try. At one point in his speech, Biden paused for a moment of silence to honor the victims, while noting the importance of learning the extent of the history of what happened that day. Tulsa Anniversary Programming, documentaries, specials and podcasts about horrors of 1921 violence. We can't just choose to learn what we want to know and not what we should know, Biden said. We should know the good, the bad, everything. That's what great nations do. They come to terms with their dark sides, and we're a great nation. The only way to build a common ground is to truly repair and rebuild. Just before the speech, Biden met with 3 centenarians thought to be the only living survivors of the massacre: Viola, mother, Fletcher, Hughes, Uncle Red, Van Ellis and Lessie, mother Randle, Benningfield Randle. Biden noted that there were no arrests after the massacre, nor was there a formal process of counting those who were killed. Insurance companies denied claims because policies didn't cover riots. My fellow Americans, this was not a riot, Biden said. This was a massacre. Among the worst in our history, but not the only one. Biden did not address the question of reparations for the descendants of the Tulsa massacre. He did outline steps that the administration is taking to combat racial discrimination in housing and to boost the level of federal government contracting to small businesses owned by people of color. He also was explicit in noting that the systemic racism that existed a century ago filtered through history and exists today. He mentioned the recent rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans and Jewish Americans, as well as the January 6 riot at the Capitol. Mother Fletcher said when she saw the insurrection at the Capitol, "It broke her heart," he said.